Hello, everybody. Today is the 7th. It is the 7th of March, and I am so excited to have with me Dr. Will Tuttle and Madeleine Tuttle. They are really two of my heroes in the plant-based vegan health movement. Dr. Tuttle has written a very famous book called The World Peace Diet, which is, I would say, like one of my top favorite books. It has, just one moment. It has really changed so many people's lives and helped people to understand the benefits of a vegan lifestyle for ourselves, for the animals, and for the planet. And Madeleine does beautiful artwork. And I want them to talk a little bit more about themselves, to tell you more, and also to tell you where you can find their work. And I'm also going to read you the description of their talk today for us: healthy relationships. And when I think about that, I think, well, isn't that the most important? Because that's where we become happy. That's where we have reduced stress. And that's really just as important as what you eat. So Dr. Will and Madeleine Tuttle are going to present an overview of both the opportunities and the challenges vegans may face in relationships, especially intimate relationships, and give some ideas for making our relationships as healthy, creative, and empowering as possible, both for ourselves and for others. Joyfully married for over 30 years, Will and Madeleine emphasize the many interconnections between the health of our relationships and our physical, psychological, and spiritual health, and how to take responsibility for the quality of all of these. So thank you so much, Will and Madeleine, for joining us, and I'll let you take over.
Thank you, Karen. We're happy to be here.
Yeah, as you said, we've been happily married for over 30 years. And I think, of course, the food has a lot to do with it. And when we're eating violence, I think on a certain level, it gets into our cells and into our being. So we can talk a little bit about that. What we were thinking basically is we'll talk a little bit here in the beginning, and then maybe we can open it up for everybody's questions also, because we like to talk about not only what we think is important and interesting, but also what you guys think is helpful and interesting. Okay. So please, please turn on, please mute your microphones.
I'm muting everybody, and then you'll have to unmute.
Okay. So anyway, just to start off, we have a few main themes that we always emphasize that we have found to be really helpful. One of them, besides the food, whole organic plant-based foods is a really important foundation. Another one, which Madeleine, you probably want to talk about too, is just the importance of not only vegan food, but everything.
Yes.
That, minimize poisons, but also having a mission together. I think for us, that's a really important part of it, that we have not only a sense of each one of us on our own path, right? Each one of us has our own life that we're living. So that's Will and Madeleine, but there's this third being, which we call Blossom.
Yeah.
Blossom is our relationship. And so the whole idea is that we try to take care of Madeleine, we try to take care of Will, and we try to take care of Blossom. And Blossom is not only our individual missions, but the mission that we share together, which is to bring healing and awakening into our world through the liberation of animals, liberate all of us. So it's really interesting, I think, just explore that idea of having a shared mission. But that's really what brought us together in the beginning, I think. And so anyway, you want to say something?
And also never think that if one is unhappy by oneself, that one is happy with another. So we really have to work on ourselves, meditating and like Will says, be loving to others, to all creatures, and not consuming chemicals. So we have a relaxed, happy inside, and then this is then mirroring to the outside and attracting to somebody who is like similar to that.
Yeah. So we were from two different cultures, which was interesting. We were both married once before also. Each one of us were married for about 7 years when we were younger. And then I was at one point really involved in meditation. I was a Zen Buddhist monk. And so I always had this idea of that the most important thing is spiritual awakening. And then the second most important thing is everything else. And so I was really happy when I discovered Madeleine, that she had a similar orientation, that to put the spiritual practice in her life first and really take it seriously. And so that, I think, has been very helpful for us, just, having that sense of a spiritual practice that each one of us does. So one of the things I think, one of the main foundations for a healthy relationship is having a time in the morning, like when we first get up, each one of us does our morning routine, I guess you'd say. And to me, that's an important foundation. It's a real secret, so just briefly, like what I do, and I think Madeleine is somewhat similar, but what I do is I take about 2 hours and I meditate for about an hour just by myself in meditation. When we're on the road, we live in this little tiny camper right now for 5 months, which is the size smaller than a queen size bed. I mean, it's like 5 feet by 7 feet maybe, and 39 inches from the roof to the ceiling. So we're living in that for 5 months together. So we meditate together for 5 months. But the other 7 months when we're at home, I have a room I go and I meditate. So we each have our own practice. So we meditate for an hour. I meditate for an hour every morning, and then I do some pranayama breathing exercises, and I do some writing in a journal and read some spiritual books. And then there's the yoga, and there's exercise and swimming in the lake, and all these things, which is sort of a foundation, a combination of spiritual practice and spiritual reading, contemplation and writing, and then also exercise and yoga, tai chi. I do some qigong. Madeleine does very similar yoga and also extra striding and meditation and reading and chanting.
Connecting with nature, with the beauty of nature is very important too. Right,
connecting with nature, and like we do every day. And so those are the things that I think are really important to do first thing in the morning. And then another thing we always do at a certain point early on is then we connect with each other, and we've talked to each other about the night that we just had and how our sleep was and what our dreams were and all those kind of things, and really can connect at the heart level and really give thanks for the beauty that we see in each other. And I think that to me is really important. So just the underlying idea is to just be proactive in our own spiritual practice as individuals, not to expect that somebody else is ever going to do anything to make me happy. I mean, that my happiness comes essentially from within, and I can do my best to try to help make the other person have a happier life, but not to try to expect them to try to make me happy. So it's kind of like just taking responsibility oneself for the quality of the relationship rather than feeling like I have to share it. So I think that always, to me, that leads to all kinds of problems, because then one thinks, well, I'm doing more than they are, or all these kind of poisonous thoughts. So
I think important is what I like to ask: how is your heart, Will, today? How do you feel today?
Right.
And getting to know Will better, how everything is going, and if there is something to share, something to discuss, or something. One is really interested in the other one. One doesn't wait till the the partner is interested in oneself first. That's what you're saying also.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I have to say, over the years of being with Madeleine, like now over 30 years, I just keep seeing more and more beauty and more and more intelligence and awareness in this other being. So it gets better and better. That's one of the things that I really love. It gets better all the time, and we share our meals. We really share our life together. We're together, a lot. And so to me, that was something that was a big challenge for a while, because I lived by myself in a Volkswagen bus, and I traveled and I was free, that way. But I discovered that one of the main truths I think that's important to remember is that the ego would always like someone else to be just how we want them to be. But in a way, that's the worst possible thing, because then we're just stuck in a sort of a comfort zone where our own delusion can just run rampant. I mean, we can just, we want the world to be how we want it to be, but it isn't. Other people have their own programming, their own consciousness, and they are how they are. And so how do we respond to that? And that's really a great adventure. And that's how I think spiritual growth happens. So to see the relationship as a vehicle for my own psychological and spiritual unfoldment, and the things that bring conflict, are actually opportunities. It's the same way we look at disease, right? Or sickness. If we have something, it's like, it's not a bad thing. It's like, it's an opportunity to cleanse, right? It's an opportunity to clean out. And it's the same thing in our relationship. It's an opportunity to clean. There's something that needs to be resolved. And we also both feel that it's really, our relationships are very important in terms of our health, our physical health, not only the quality of the food, but the quality of our relationships. It's a big
Also, to create together. I think a relationship should include to create something together, to have a mission. And like what we do next in the morning after what we mentioned so far is Will plays the piano and I come with the silver flute and we play music together. Right. And this is always a very beautiful time to have the feelings and express them through an instrument and creating some pieces together. And then we record them sometimes, and there are some on our videos online. So YouTube, if you like to see some, it's really, I think that's something I'm always looking forward to.
Yeah. When, Madeleine was initially, I guess, somewhat attracted to me because of my music. I was over in Switzerland playing the piano. And so it was always just me playing the piano and her loving it and listening to it. And she still loves to listen to my music. And I love her paintings. We have her paintings all over the house, and it's a delight to just see them. She paints animals. And so they're in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in the living room, and everywhere, bedroom and study. And, but the thing that I think is, not only were we attracted to each other's creativity, but then the idea of creating a life together, creating a mission to make a positive difference in the world. And there's so many levels of that, like we lived for 17 years in an RV, right? In a fifth wheel trailer, which is only about 220 square feet. So we already lived 17 years in an RV full time with no house, just on the road every single Sunday at a different city, putting on workshops and concerts and giving lectures. We did that. We thought we'd do it for a year, and we ended up doing it for 17 years. And even after 17 years, we loved it because we learned to really get along well. Even, we were in a close space, but we were creating this movement really of what we felt was of, our workshops on developing intuition. So helping people connect with their spiritual intuition through meditation, through creativity, through connecting with nature. And we stayed a lot, of course, in the RV and state parks and national parks. And so we were in the forest and in the oceans and spending a lot of time outside. And then about 12 years ago, we bought a little house in Northern California with a little land. So now we're also creating a garden, right? We have a food forest. We've planted about 75 trees, fruit and nut trees. And so we're getting a lot of food out of that, and we can, eat it and sell some of it at the local farmers market. So
and this is so nice.
Yeah.
Like when Will works on the computer and I go to the garden and get some food out of the garden, and you see sometimes some pictures appearing on Facebook. But I'm coming in with these bushes of greens or baskets full of fruits. And this is something we created together. And it's so beautiful to see out of love what comes out and what appears. And we can eat it and be healthy and share, and it's like just really, I think, very beautiful.
Yeah, and Madeleine, actually, when I started after about, I guess, 10 years, I decided to write this book, The World Peace Diet. And so then I was writing so much, I wasn't playing the piano that much. We were in the RV, we had a digital piano in the RV, and so she thought there's not enough live music like there usually was, so she went to the music store to get either a violin or a flute or something. And she ended up getting a flute and practicing, really diligently and getting really good, to the point now where we do concerts, we have 2 CDs out. And so to me, that's a beautiful thing, that we can step out of our comfort zone and just try something new. And it can end up contributing to the relationship in so many different ways. Painting and playing music together was great. But also playing music together is great. So maybe I have to start painting. We can paint together.
Yeah, it's something we have in our hands if we create together like this. It's not like just going on a date and having a meal outside and watching a movie in a theater or so. And then afterwards it's over and one has to repeat again. It's something we have in our hands. We can create any minute we like. We can create something, and in the garden, something, building a deck together and enjoying it by sunning on it every day a little bit. And it's really, I think that's what relationships are for.
We've built about 6 decks where we live, and waterfalls and little swimming holes and things. And so we create, and then we can enjoy that and share it with our neighbors and friends and things. So I think anything like that is always helpful because we're on this earth where everybody says we should be a human being. And that's true. We shouldn't just be a human doing. But on the other hand, an earthly existence is about doing. It's about
we have a vehicle.
We have a vehicle.
Yeah,
we are supposed to be doing something.
Yeah.
Although it's important to do things from a place of mindfulness, to be aware. There's 2 things I want to just quickly emphasize. One is just the importance of each one of us being positive in our communications with each other. I think that's one of the main problems in relationships, is that people are a little bit critical. And then the criticism can escalate, and people can think, well, you should do that better. And well, yeah, but you should do that better. And studies have shown that if it's 50-50, like if half the things we say are critical and half the things we say are sort of complimentary and with gratitude and appreciation for the other person, that always ends in a divorce. I mean, 50-50 is nowhere near good enough. It needs to be at least more like 70-30 or 80-20 or 90-10 or more like that. So if I'm going to say a critical thing, then I should go ahead and say 9 nice things. And we can do that. I mean, because the thing is, all of us have been wounded in growing up, and all of us have feelings of that life is difficult. We have all kinds of challenges. We have health challenges, we have financial challenges, we have relationship challenges, we have all these challenges. Everybody does. There's really no one, I don't think, that doesn't have these challenges and isn't suffering in some way. So the more we can be loving and understanding and help others to have a positive experience of our relationship with them and of themselves, then the more it just creates a foundation for happiness for everybody. So it's something we can really do.
I think one has to love first to be loved. It's same thing like with money, for example. If one thinks, oh, we don't have enough supply or so, one has to first give away and then it comes back 1,000-fold. So to be fortunate, one has to always give first. And then afterwards, it comes back in multiple times, and that's how it works.
I like that, to be fortunate.
Yeah.
We're so fortunate.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, which we've told the story a few times, but I think it's just an important story, is that we're always planting seeds, and the seeds come back. So if we want to create a positive, loving future, then just plant the seeds. And that's one of the main things, like in the World Peace Diet, like you talked about, Karen, when we're eating animal foods, we're really planting seeds of violence and misery and toxicity and despair in others. And it comes back. You know, we force all these animals into misery, all kinds of drugs, and distress and despair. And we find the pharmaceutical industry making huge profits on drugs for depression and anxiety and for physical illness, because we force all that on animals. So I call it the boomerang effect in the World Peace Diet. And whatever we put out, it comes back. And so our food, our conversations, what we're watching, one of the things I think is so great is we never have had a television. I mean, we haven't had a TV, either one of us.
That's the best.
In about 50 years. Oh, yeah. So, you know, I would say just turn off the TV.
Throw it out the window.
There's so much toxicity. We also don't listen to the radio either. I mean, or mainstream media in general, I think is so much negative programming and deception. So be really aware of that. Then the other thing is, like when Madeleine first came over, for the first couple of years, we were living out in this little road, in this little house way out on a dirt road. And we would occasionally get into little conflicts of some kind or another. I would misunderstand, you know, because her English wasn't the same. We had different concepts of what men and women should do and how they should be together. So there was plenty of opportunity for misunderstandings. And we just remember, this is just an interesting little story, I think. One evening, we were in that situation where we had hurt each other's feelings, and I wanted to just do something, you know. So I remember I wrote this little note, but I couldn't even bring myself to give it to her. So I just folded it up into a paper airplane and I just threw it over like that, and it landed somewhere near her desk, and she read it and softened her heart and softened my heart. So we got back together. And it didn't seem like any big deal, you know, but it was funny because when we were a few years ago, we were in China, and we were there to give lectures promoting veganism and the World Peace Diet, and also play music. You know, I was playing the piano and Madeleine was playing the flute, and she had her paintings up, but it was mainly promoting veganism. And we were traveling around every single day in a different city of China. We would fly or take the train to a different city. And after about the 5th or 6th city, all the organizers said, you know, one of these times we would love it if you would, instead of talking just about veganism, bring in, please, the secrets to a healthy relationship, because we have never seen a couple that's just so happy and comfortable with each other. So, you know, we want to know, like, what are the secrets to doing that? So we got up on the stage and we were talking a little bit like we are now about the importance of healthy food and having a mission together and being creative and so forth. And I mentioned this for some reason, or maybe you mentioned, I can't remember, but we mentioned this little story of the paper airplane. And I guess they got a kick out of it, because then the next day we were in Guangzhou, I think, when we told that story. And I remember the next day we went to Nanjing, another city, and these were big events. I mean, they would have about 500 people and a stage with a beautiful grand piano and flowers and lights and a big screen. And it was really beautifully done. Amazing how they did things. And we got there and Madeleine said, look at this, because every chair in this auditorium, besides having a chair, they always had a little table next to the chair, because one of the customs in China is you serve tea while people are watching an event. So they could serve tea. And she said, look, on every table next to every chair, there's a little folded paper airplane. So there were like 500 paper airplanes filling up this theater. And so when we were giving our talk, we mentioned that, why doesn't everybody take a minute and just write a little love note on your paper airplane and just throw it to somebody else in the audience? And so then they started doing that, so for the next hour or so, we were talking, we were playing music, and there were these paper airplanes flying through the air silently, and of course you don't know where they're going to go. You throw it this way and it goes that way, and they were just landing and people were laughing, and it was really fun. I mean, they just loved doing that whole thing. And so there were these flying love notes going everywhere. And then at the very end of the evening, they brought out this whole chorus of traditional Chinese singers, and they came out to do a closing song in Chinese, and they started singing the song, and someone, I guess they had the idea, and they had a whole huge bag full of more paper airplanes. And so as they were singing, they started throwing like dozens and dozens of paper airplanes. They were flying everywhere. People were picking them up and throwing them back. And, so there was this whole huge like grand finale of paper airplane love notes flying everywhere. And I remember, we looked at each other, and it was just so touching, because there was this realization of how our life is like that. When we, it was literally 24 years earlier, on literally the opposite side of the planet, out on a little house on a dirt road, I had just thrown in a paper airplane, and then I had planted that seed, in a sense, or we had planted that seed, and then that had just sort of germinated and grown for 24 years in consciousness. And then it erupted on the other side of the world 24 years later, as hundreds of people throwing paper airplanes and laughing and celebrating the power of love to bring us together and create a world of healing and happiness. And I really think that that's a very important kind of illustration, that we may think something is no big deal. Oh, I just gave a smile to that person, or I just kind of criticized that person. We might think it's no big deal, but it's a big deal. Our little actions can plant massive seeds.
Yeah.
And so it's really helpful to remember that. And with every opportunity that we have to do the best we can to plant seeds of loving kindness into the infinite web of relations, because we're related, and we're always sending something out into the web of relations, and it goes out and it affects others, and it comes back and it goes and it builds. And it's really up to us as individuals to create the kind of positive relationships that we'd like to see in the world. So I'm really grateful for that demonstration, and I'm so glad you brought that up when we were there in China, that idea of the paper airplanes.
This was really fun. The other thing is that we're conditioned of how a relationship should work, how it should begin, and what it should contain. And what we're conditioned to is sexual attraction. So if we're sexually attracted, then we think it's a good thing. That's all it needs. But this isn't true, because sexually attracted, I mean, every being on earth works this out anyway already. But we as humans, we for sure have much more to do than this, because our world needs it. And the real love comes actually not just through that, but it comes through working together. And really, that's the pure love. That's without being satisfied through another. One needs another to have this feeling or something. And I think it's very important to question what we expect of a relationship, because women just give their beauty away. They're showing a lot of sexual kind of
enticement.
Enticement. Mm-hmm. So the man kind of really gets to look at, and then, so that's like a piece of meat then. It's like one consume this woman with sex, and then what about if the lust and everything goes flattens down, then there is nothing left. So it's much more than that. And we don't have to have children in every incarnation, because we went 1,000 times already here. We can have another incarnation. We can take on a big mission to help to change this conditioning, and all kinds of things are possible.
Yeah, of course, it's if you feel drawn to having children, that's great too.
Yes.
It's not like, but the idea, I guess, is I mean, it's really a huge thing in our society. Not only the consumption of animals, but really the consumption of each other in many ways, and the sexualization of
Everything.
of everyone, the children, even, and women, and to see beyond that, because that's really a form of materialism, just that we identify just with the physical body. So the whole idea, I think, in a healthy relationship is just seeing beyond the form to the being.
Yeah.
The being that is eternal, that was never born and will never die, and relating on that level with the being. And when we do that, we begin to create a foundation for really healthy relationships. I don't think we can do that very well if we don't actually see that in ourselves, that what we are was never born and will never die, that we are eternal consciousness, and all beings are that. So we're all related, and there's one life living through all of us. And so the natural thing is to love and respect each other, as we're all create creatures, I guess you could say, of the same power and the same force. And like what Madeleine, I think what you're saying is that the sexual program in our society lowers our vibration, so that we look at each other more in terms of just desire, that kind of a level.
Pleasure.
And that's true. I mean, that always ends in suffering, I think.
It's the same thing.
Until we learn it from it too.
Yeah.
It's
like
true,
pleasure in food.
Right. Junk food.
It's the same thing.
Right.
Everything is the same thing.
Yeah.
Going for pleasure is suffering. That ends in suffering for sure.
But on the other hand, I think I know you agree with this. It's beautiful to savor the beauty of life, right?
Yes.
It's beautiful. I savor. I mean, I
moment.
savor your beauty, and the beauty of the meals we make, and it's
beauty of
and the
nature.
beauty of nature. It's all around us. So I don't think we should have this idea that we have to just like not have any pleasure at all. Like, I mean, it's like there's even more
enjoyment.
I mean, it's like when people think, well, I just love a good steak. I love a good, hamburger or whatever it is, or fish fries or whatever. And I understand that. I ate that, when I was younger, and it tasted good. But there's so much deeper, higher, more fantastic pleasure in eating organic, whole plant-based foods that we know don't cause suffering, and that we know are really healthy. I mean, it's just a quantum leap and that so-called pleasure. It's like the pleasure someone has maybe of having a drink or of alcohol or something. I mean, we haven't drunk alcohol. We don't do any of that stuff, coffee or anything. I think really having a pure vehicle and trying to uplift and purify our vibration and consciousness pays big dividends. It really does. Because that's the more we can raise our vibration. And even while the society and the culture and the corporations and the media and the government is trying to lower it, the medical establishment especially, they want us afraid and divided and judgmental, because that's where the money and power is in that. So the whole idea is for us to raise our vibration, be joyful and free and creative, and love each other, and be united to create a world of freedom and peace and harmony for others and for ourselves. That means being proactive, taking responsibility for the quality of our relationships, the quality of our consciousness, the quality of our food. And so we really appreciate you, Karen, for creating this group. And I think, we've been going.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Take some questions.
Take some questions. Yeah.
So
Thank
please.
you so much, Will and Madeleine. What a wonderful description of your relationship and healthy relationships. Let me see if anybody has any questions here.
Yeah, people can ask directly. Just raise your hand, or just unmute yourself, or you can write it in the
Or
chat.
you can, if you
whatever.
don't want to ask directly, you can put a question into the chat,
Yeah,
and that is fine also.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Question or comment or anything really.
Yeah.
But because
Yeah.
it's a huge subject. I mean, relationships are
Yeah.
like we were just at Hippocrates Health Institute in South Florida, where people come with all kinds of issues. They have cancer, they have diabetes, they're overweight, they have arthritis, they have high blood pressure, all these things. And relationship is actually a cause of a lot of it, or it's a factor.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the stress that people feel is a big factor. And one of the things that Brian Clement says is that he finds that even though the food is really important and totally whole, organic, basically raw plant-based foods is a big advantage, it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is the consciousness, the attitude, which really, in many ways, comes out in our relationships. We can't really hide those. And when that gets healthier, our food gets healthier. So, yeah, also love to hear anything that anyone has found works well.
Debbie said, thank you for joining us today. Loved your talk.
Thanks, Debbie. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question. I would, or not a question, but I would like you to talk a bit about your upcoming book, Will, which I think is going to be a very important one, Food Freedom.
Yeah, right. Food for freedom. FFF. Yeah. Well, the Food for Freedom book, it really kind of builds on what Madeleine and I are talking about here. The importance of liberation of animals for the liberation of humanity. And we have been appalled really at how easily people in the United States, and really, especially in the so-called Western world, were willing to just give up very hard fought and hard won freedoms, like the freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom of bodily autonomy over COVID-19, for example, in those 4 years, and just say, okay, we won't gather. We'll just, I'll take a shot. I'll wear a mask. I'll do whatever you say. I won't go outside. I won't get any fresh air. I'll become sick and fat and nearly dead because you think it's a good idea. I mean, it was really appalling to me to see how people failed really to question the official narratives. And many of them were vegans, actually. They were kind of going along and even policing the whole thing. So it just gradually dawned on me that I needed to write a book that would bring together the importance, and we talked about this quite a bit too, the importance of animal liberation and human liberation, because we have these two camps in a way. We have all these animal liberation people, vegans, who want animals to be free, but in many ways they were against human freedom. And then we have all these people that are really into human freedom, but they're like totally into eating meat, dairy, and eggs as an expression of that freedom. And so to me, it seems so obvious that if I want to be free and have sovereignty over my life, how ironic it is that I think it's okay for me to have chickens or pay someone else to have chickens and cows and pigs and steal their sovereignty and steal their eggs and steal their milk and steal their lives and steal their babies and kill them so that I can be happy and healthy. So it's not necessary. I mean, we've both been vegans for 40 years. We know it's not necessary to enslave and abuse other living beings, and that we should be really focusing on creating a new foundation for a world of liberation for all of us. And so it's a pretty deep dive into the whole rabbit hole of the globalist plutocrats and the agenda they're rolling out, and really how the vegan movement itself has been infiltrated and is being weaponized. Our compassion really and caring for each other and for animals is being weaponized by these plutocrats to say, we get a mask because we love other people, or we take a vaccine because we care about others. This whole idea. And it's really, I think, in many ways, a kind of a satanic program. It's like they're the ones wearing a mask and hiding and deceiving and abusing us, but they make us, people who are gullible, believe that we should be like them and mask our face and hide our smile and breathe our own waste products and take toxins into our body to make other people, healthy. I mean, of course, we haven't been to, we both of us have stayed away from the medical establishment now and haven't gone to doctors or even to pharmacies for decades, probably 40 years. So we're really interested in being proactive about our health too, physical health, through food and relationships and exercise and fresh air and sunshine and all that. So Food for Freedom is the first book, I think, to really bring all of this together. The World Peace Diet vision of the spiritual dimension of our society and how it affects, and how food affects our spirituality, but also in relationship to what's been happening over the last 10 or 20 years and how our freedom is being eroded because we're taking away the freedom of animals. So we need to liberate animals to have a foundation for our own freedom. And that's it in a nutshell, but there's a lot more to it. Looks like we've got some more hands up. We have hands up. We have chat questions.
So Anne Marie said, God has blessed you both and has blessed all in turn.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
She said, wondering your thoughts about compulsive overeating, filling an emotional hole with a physical pleasure. Plant-based, whole, organic, delicious food, about overcoming this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think, of course, one step in the right direction is moving toward a whole organic plant-based diet, just because that has so much fiber in it without so many calories typically. So you can eat a lot of plant-based foods.
If it's whole food.
If it's whole food.
Yeah, whole food, not packaged.
But if it's processed, if it's oil and dressings,
sugar and salt,
or cakes and candies, I mean, it can be vegan and be really toxic. And that's one of the things I mean about the infiltration of the vegan movement. Is this Bill Gates and other investors are putting millions and millions of dollars into creating so-called vegan foods that are really unhealthy, and making the whole vegan movement into a laughing stock. And not people who are really healthy and care about health. They look at vegan, at Impossible Burgers and vegan cheese and vegan ice cream and all this stuff and saying, you vegans, you're not healthy. And a lot of people go vegan and eat this stuff and they're not healthy. And they say, well, I tried being vegan. It didn't work. I felt sick. So all of those things are part of an agenda to keep us enslaved. And then, but this question also is pointing to the fact of our psychological, the hole that we have, I guess is how she said it. So filling a vacuum. Yeah. If we're missing maybe a really harmonious relationship with another person or with our own true nature, which I think is really the most important thing. If we have a healthy relationship with our own true nature, then we're not craving, even because it can be an addiction to crave a relationship with someone. Like I need someone. I need to have someone, I have to have someone to be happy. It's really in a way a recipe for disaster because then I'm putting so much weight on that other person to make me happy and have them be the way I want them to be. So if we don't find that, and we maybe feel like we a drive to eat food or a drive to drink alcohol or a drive to gamble or watch movies or who knows what, there's 10,000 things.
And these foods are so ready to consume everywhere. But if we take the whole food, like for example, eat every day some oats, and we have Madeleine's Intuitive Kitchen also online, so you can go there and getting some great recipe with whole foods. And you're so fulfilled that you're not even wanting to eat any of these so-called delicious pleasure foods.
Yeah, and also that's true. That's really true. But also to add to that, remember how cigarette smoking was really extremely addictive. And tobacco itself is not that addictive, but the R.J. Reynolds and the other major tobacco companies they estimate about 400 chemicals to the cigarettes to make them really addictive. It's hard to give it up. And so when cigarettes were successfully kind of attacked and brought down, those companies, with all their money, they moved right into the food industry. They bought out Frito-Lay and Kraft and some of these other big food manufacturers. And the scientists that they had employed all those years to discover chemicals that that would make us really, crave things. They put them to work on food, and they mastered the art of creating foods that you cannot not eat more. I mean, it's really a science and an art to make foods addictive through the texture and the mouthfeel and the flavors and the salt, the sugar, the additives, so if people buy these foods, they think, what's wrong with me? I can't stop eating. Well, it's not. Part of it might be you have a psychological issue, but a lot of it is you are being targeted by extremely powerful forces that are working to make you addicted and to make you fat. Big Pharma loves fat people, right? That's a huge fat, sick people. I mean, that's the goal of Big Pharma and these food companies and the government. The government's been completely captured. All the FDA, the CDC, they've all been captured by these corporations. So it's really important to, again, don't think that you have any protection at all by governmental agencies to protect it. There are really toxic, very powerful and effective chemicals that are added and additives that are added to the foods to compel us to eat these foods. So it's important to understand that.
Yeah. Thank you. I want to just go. Erica has her hand up. Erica, would you like to come on?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Again, I didn't quite get it. Karen?
I just asked, Erica has her hand raised. So
Yes.
like Erica.
Oh, yeah. Erica. Hi, Erica.
I got to spend time with you at the Woodstock Fruit Festival.
It's Erica.
Oh, yeah, Erica.
Erica.
Hi. Yes.
nice.
You know who's here right now is Christy is here in Florida with us and her kids. They were just banging on the door trying to get in. So I had to get up. That's so funny. We were just talking about you. Yeah. That's my sister's daughter. They're friends in Connecticut, so it's great.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
All right. What's your question?
We're loving your CDs, and it brings me into gratitude and peace when I listen to them, and softens my heart, and the paintings are so peaceful feeling. So thank you. My question is about is two questions. One about if you're with family members or other people that are eating the standard diet, what do you typically say to honor your own diet, but want to be respectful, and you're going to still be with them socially? You're not going to not go. And I guess my other question was about the immune system. Do you believe in are we supposed to build up our immune system theory?
Well, yeah, those are both great questions, and they're two totally different ones. But I think that the first one, just quickly, every family situation is unique.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to say a hard and fast rule, except I say the hard and fast rule would be to just be in it for the long haul. Don't expect that you're going to be able to necessarily turn people around in a few months or a year, make them to change them, because if they feel that you're trying to change them, then they're going to resist. So we've just been in it for the long haul, and we've had some of our close family members, like my sister and her kids and my brother and other people, and Madeleine's mother and my mother. Some of them have gone vegan and stuck with it. Some of them have gone semi-vegan and they go a little bit in and out, But we just are consistent, showing up, with how we are, and we just encourage them as best we can with the example that we are.
Yeah.
And it's been very rewarding, I have to say. I mean, they're much better than they would have been, but it took like 15 years before we started seeing real progress. It took years. Sometimes it just takes years. So so you just got to be willing to just, but 15 years, after that, my mother and Madeleine's mother, they were maybe now at that point, they were maybe 75, but they went on to live another 20 years, so great, so it can, you just keep planting the seeds. And then the immune system, I think there's two ways of looking at it. Essentially, the immune system, a lot of people like to talk about the immune system like it's some kind of a thing. It's really what we are as spiritual beings, and we're manifesting a physical vehicle. And the idea that we have this immune system, I think it's true on a certain level, that how well our body responds to things that are trying to compromise our health. It's good to have our lymphatic system that's moving things around, and white blood cells, and all that kind of stuff. But I think a lot of it really is a little bit off base, in the sense that it's sort of based on this germ theory. There's all these enemies out there, all these germs, these bacteria, viruses, and other things that are always trying to attack us, and we've got to fight back. With our immune system, we got to protect ourselves. So it's got this idea of a battle. Like we're always in a battle. The immune system is like our army, and we have killer cells. He uses all these words like killer cells and T cells and this and that. It's like this whole war mentality. And to me, that I would question that, because I think that's a product of animal agriculture. We have this for 10,000 years. We've been enslaving animals. And we've been at war, really, with them and with nature. Nature's always trying to free everybody. Nature, the animals don't like it. Nature doesn't like it. So we're in a war against nature, and so that war against nature, and that feeling of that nature's out to get us, is part of the animal agriculture. So when we go vegan, a lot of people go vegan, but they don't go deep vegan. And we have we've coined this word, deep veganism. Deep veganism is questioning not just the animal foods, but the whole mentality of separation from nature, and the domination and exploitation of nature and animals, and the sacred feminine dimension of life. And once we begin to go down that path of spiritual awakening around these issues, then we begin to see that actually we're really embedded in a very benevolent world. I mean, there's tremendous forces at work to help us, and that the so-called bacteria, there's many more, probably 2 to 3 or 4 times as many bacterial cells in us as there are our cells. So the idea of antibiotics or killing them off, if they die, we would die instantly. Same thing with so-called viruses. There's a whole movement now to try to help free us from this idea that viruses are some kind of negative force, that actually we have their cellular, mainly the main theory is, new theory is that they're cellular debris. They're part of the natural recycling of our cells, and they're not harming us. I mean, they're beneficial. They're ways of messaging that there's literally, our body is continually exuding trillions of these all the time, and that's how we communicate with each other and with nature around us, and with plants and animals. So there's this massive intelligence that's all the time manifesting as bacteria and viruses. And what the real problem is chemicals that are being spewed. There's over like 90,000 man-made chemicals that were never made until we started making them, and those are toxic. So we need, in a way, an immune system to protect us from the chemicals, but not bacteria and viruses. That's what they want to blame them.
And we have to start to not use chemicals anymore in all the products, for body, for cleaning, for anything. Just minimalize all the chemicals, because we're originally meant to be healthy. We are not meant to be ill. That's not normal. So we have to clean up our life. That's what we can do. We have it in our hands to clean up the life and follow the natural laws of being.
Thanks. Yeah, the CDC and all the health agencies, big pharma that controls everything, they continually turn us the bacteria and viruses are the enemy, and away from this idea that glyphosate and all these chemicals and neonicotinoids that are in all the foods, and the atrazine, which is a hormone disruptor, and paraquat and diquat, and I mean, so many chemicals that are in food, and then all these flame retardants and all these other things that are in shampoos and personal care products. I mean, I see, we go to the beach here in Florida, we see people just lathering on these sunscreens and bug sprays and all kinds of stuff. And
it's all chemicals.
And there's chemtrails coming down. There's all kinds of and there's radiation, 5G. I mean, we are being bombarded with toxins. That's, it's not, I'm not being negative. I'm just like being realistic. That's happening. So it's good for us to see that our immune system is basically keeping a positive vibration, a high vibration of joy and happiness, so that our body is, and then like Madeleine says so well, just minimize the intake of these chemicals through food, water, air, personal care products.
Pollution.
Yeah. Like, toothbrush, toothpaste, shampoo, food, all these things. Like, be really conscious. And then the other thing is we can detox. Like, she's discovered this great company called
Global Healing.
And it's, know about Global Healing? Yeah, they have some great products.
You can cleanse.
To cleanse the stuff that's accumulated.
Chemicals out. You can get all kinds of. You have to do something. We have to do something to change the world. And we can share it with others, so the others do the same thing. And we can be so powerful. We're meant to be powerful.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy their B12 and things. But their detox.
And liver cleanse. They have a whole liver cleanse and a whole chemical and heavy metal cleanse. They have parasite cleanse, for worms or, all kinds of things. Yeah. So, I mean, there is plenty of things we can cleanse ourselves and then not take it in anymore, not having around us anymore.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Erica. I just want to, let's see, there's, I think, just like one more question or two. Let's see.
Give our love to Nick and your kids too.
Yeah.
Paula
Thank you.
is asking, you have a very special relationship. What do you suggest for couples who have different interests and do things differently?
Just find out what in common there is. There is always something in common. So find it out.
Yeah.
Instead of distracting oneself from that and just consuming.
Yeah, I think there's for sure. Many couples have somewhat different lives, and we're in a society where a lot of times we're encouraged to just go our own way, totally, consume. Be individuals. I think the individual integrity of the individual is really important, but it can become isolated. We can become like just sort of isolated individual doing what we think is really great things, but that can be shallow and unfulfilling if we don't have relationships that are meaningful as part of that. And relationships that are meaningful really means investing time, like taking time to talk,
to feed,
and listen,
blossom. And
do things together. Feed, blossom, feed the third party. Find something. The main thing is time, really, like time together to talk and share feelings and then there's two kinds of intimacy, right? There's face to face, that, and then there's like shoulder to shoulder, like doing things together, working on projects together.
Yeah.
That can be really fantastic. Like solving a problem together. We got to build this, whatever it is, something, and then work on it together. I think we have to be creative to find these things and make the chemistry happen. Right? I mean, to kind of rekindle the spark of enjoyment in the other person. and as a being. So it's just a matter of I think being proactive in finding those things, like Madeleine says, that we share and feeding it.
And one thing we always share, even if there isn't anything on earthly, there is spirit, and we can have a spiritual path together and sharing this. And then there is something more coming out of that, because that's the root of all life.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thank you so
Okay, well,
much.
we're a little bit at the time. We wanted to
Yeah,
take about
no,
an
we
hour.
have to end. We have to
Yeah, we
end.
should probably
It
begin to
was
wrap it up
great.
slowly.
Yeah.
It was great having you with us. The very last thing is that Debbie just wanted to know about your first book. Debbie, the first book is The World Peace Diet, and the new book has not come out yet, but it's called
Probably in
Food
April.
for Freedom.
We're hoping in April next month.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's finished. It's being worked on and coming. So
Great.
Yeah.
Very much
Mhm.
needed. Very much
Yeah.
needed. Thank you
you can go to
so
our
much.
website. Yeah. All right.
Oh, yes. Tell us your website so that they can go and check everything
Well,
out.
it's either World Peace Diet, worldpeacediet.com, or just my name, willtuttle.com. Everything's there. Madeleine's cooking videos and our books and our tour schedule. We're in Florida right now. We're heading cross country through Texas and Arizona. We'll be back in California in late March, and then early May. In early April, we'll be back home. So, and we travel around the country every year. And we're happy to work together, happy to stay in touch.
Yeah, and if you like to learn some more, go to the website and look at the videos and do a little sprouting and gardening and all kinds of good things.
Wonderful.
Much love.
Yeah, much
right.
love, and
Thanks,
thank
Karen.
you. Thanks,
It was great.
Karen.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks.
you,
Bye, everyone.
everybody,
Thank
for
you.
joining us today.
Yeah.